Close your eyes just for a moment and let your mind drift far away from the modern world. The glowing screens, the hum of distant traffic, the artificial light that so often hides the stars. Imagine yourself standing at the edge of a vast frozen fjord. Beneath your boots, thick ice groans softly as the sea shifts and stirs, trapped beneath its cold prison. The air is sharp and clean, carrying with it the faint tang of salt and the deep silence of a world asleep. Above you stretches a black sky, vast and endless, untouched by the light of the sun, because the sun has not risen here in many weeks. Only the pale green and violet ribbons of the northern lights dance in the heavens, whispering secrets in a language older than memory. It is a night that has lasted so long the world seems to have forgotten what it means to be warmed by the sun's embrace. And yet you are not alone here. Around you, hidden in the folds of this great dark landscape, are the homes of the Vikings. No glowing windows, no electrical hum, no central heating, just wooden walls, thatched roofs heavy with snow, and the faintest glimmer of firelight leaking through cracks in the timber. Inside, families huddle close, bound together by more than blood, a shared resilience, a quiet strength that has carried them through 100 sunless days. And so I ask you this, how did they do it? How did these men and women, without any of the conveniences we take for granted, no electricity, no internet, no heated blankets or instant light at the flick of a switch, endure such long, dark winters? Not only endure them, but build the strength that would shape an age of exploration, of craftsmanship, of legends that still echo today. Tonight I invite you to join me on a gentle journey through the endless nights of Viking winter. Together we will explore the quiet secrets of their strength, the way they slept, the food that sustained them, the way their spirits endured the darkness. And perhaps as we wander through the stillness of those long-forgotten nights, we may discover something we can borrow for our own lives, a wisdom that speaks softly across the centuries, reminding us that even in the deepest night, there is resilience and warmth and hope. So find a comfortable place to rest, breathe slowly, and let the night of the north enfold you. Our voyage into the world of the Vikings begins now. Picture it, you step out from the shelter of a sturdy wooden longhouse, boots crunching softly on packed snow. The air is so cold it seems to hum with its own silent song, a song of frost and stillness. Around you, the land lies cloaked in a heavy blanket of night. The sky above is a deep, velvety black, and the horizon has forgotten the golden blush of sunrise. The sun, that familiar companion of our modern days, has not graced this place with its light in many weeks. Here far to the north, the world has surrendered to the long dark of winter. Your breath plumes before you, turning to tiny crystals in the air. The only light comes from the faint shimmer of the aurora borealis, its green and violet tendrils curling lazily across the heavens. Beneath your feet, the fjord groans as ice shifts and cracks the hidden sea beneath, stirring in its icy prison. The wind carries with it the scent of salt and pine, and something older still, the memory of countless winters past, of nights when your ancestors too gazed up at this same endless sky. In our modern world, darkness is something we keep at bay with the flick of a switch. Street lamps, headlights, the glow of screens, we push the night away without a second thought. But for the Vikings, darkness was not a thing to be banished. It was a fact of life, a season of the year, a companion as constant as the sea. Imagine living through such a winter day after day, where the sun rises no higher than a faint glow behind the hills, if at all. 100 days, perhaps more, where time seems to lose its shape, where the rhythms of day and night blur into one long twilight. And yet they endured. They did not simply endure, they thrived. The darkness shaped their days, their customs, their sense of time itself. Without the sun to mark the passage of hours, they measured time by the needs of the hearth, the hunger of livestock, the slow consumption of their stores of food. A day might be defined by the simple tasks that kept life going: mending a net, carving a tool, tending to a child. And the night became a vast, quiet canvas, a time for stories, for dreams, for reflection. Consider this: in those long months without the sun, when modern people might despair, the Vikings found purpose. Their resilience grew not in spite of the darkness, but through it. The endless night taught them patience. It taught them to listen to the creak of ice, the hiss of wind through pine, the soft breathing of those they loved. The world outside might have been locked in winter's grip, but inside the longhouses, the fire never truly died, and with it neither did hope. Have you ever wondered, what does time mean when there is no sunrise to divide day from night? How does the heart measure the passing of days when the sky offers no signposts? The Vikings, in their wisdom, let go of the rigid division of hours we cling to today. Instead, they lived by rhythm, the rhythm of hunger and fullness, of wakefulness, and rest of work and stillness. They embraced the long dark as a season of waiting, of preparing, of strengthening the bonds that tied family and community together. Outside, the world slept beneath a quilt of snow and ice. But inside, the longhouses hummed quietly with life. The crackle of the hearth, the soft murmur of voices, the gentle creak of wood as the wind pressed against the walls. In this endless night, time did not march. It ebbed and flowed like the tide beneath the ice. In the modern world, we often dread the dark. We fill our homes with artificial light, fearful of what we might feel in its absence. But the Vikings knew differently. They knew that the dark could be a teacher if only we had the courage to listen. What might we discover if we let the night in just a little? If we allowed ourselves to sit in stillness, to watch the slow dance of shadows, to feel the quiet strength that comes from embracing what we cannot change. The geography of their homeland made this a necessity. In these northern latitudes, winter's grip was long and deep. For those living above the Arctic Circle, the sun might not rise at all for weeks on end. Even in the southern parts of Scandinavia, daylight in winter could be little more than a fleeting blush on the horizon, gone before the chores were half done. And yet they adapted. The endless night became a part of them, a forge in which their resilience was tempered. And perhaps as you sit now, warm in your home, with the soft glow of this narration accompanying your evening, you might wonder, could we too learn to find comfort in the dark? Could we, like the Vikings, see in the endless night not a threat, but an invitation to slow down, to rest, to reconnect with what truly matters tonight? As we continue this gentle voyage, we will step inside the longhouse, where the firelight flickers on ancient wood, and discover how the Vikings turned their homes into fortresses of warmth, of community, of quiet strength. The night outside may be endless, but inside there is light enough. Let us leave behind the frozen fjord for now, and step quietly inside one of those Viking longhouses, the heart of winter survival. The door, thick and heavy, creaks softly as you push it open, the sound quickly swallowed by the warm hush within. The air rich with the mingled scents of smoke wool and wood wraps around you like a familiar blanket. It is warmer here, but not in the way of modern heating that hums steadily through walls and floors. This warmth is alive. It breathes with the people, with the fire, with the steady heartbeat of a community bound together against the cold. Before you stretches a long, narrow hall, its timber walls darkened by centuries of smoke. The roof beams soar above, heavy with shadow, disappearing into the gloom beyond, the reach of the fire's flickering light. The central hearth glows softly, its embers pulsing like a living thing. Flames crackle and leap, casting dancing patterns of gold and orange on the worn wooden floor. Around the fire, families gather close, always close. Children curl against their mothers' heads, resting on furs. Older folks sit with legs stretched out, their faces lined by both age and the fire's gentle glow. There are no private rooms here, no doors to close, no walls to separate one sleeper from another. Privacy is not the luxury it would become in later ages. In this world, closeness is survival. Along the walls, raised wooden platforms serve as beds by night, benches by day. Layer upon layer of straw, woolen blankets, and animal pelts cover these sleeping spaces. Soft, worn furs, sheep, reindeer, bear form a barrier against the drafts that slip through the seams of wood and turf. The air is cool, yes, but not bitter. The heat of many bodies, of many breathings, holds the worst of the cold at bay. Imagine it, the gentle chorus of night sounds, the crackle of the hearth, the soft rustle as someone shifts beneath their blankets, the quiet murmur of a lullaby, the low hum of an elder telling a tale to soothe restless young ones. The longhouse is alive, even in sleep. The darkness outside may be vast and silent, but here inside there is warmth, there is belonging. Here the night is shared, and so its weight is made light. Can you see them? A father, his arm draped protectively over his youngest child. A grandmother, finger still at last gone slack over the half-finished stitching in her lap. A warrior home for the winter, his sword set aside his hand, resting on the hilt even in dreams. Their breath steams in the cool air, mingling, becoming one. They sleep not as isolated souls in separate rooms, but as a single living whole, a tribe, a family, a fortress of warmth against the dark. And in this closeness is strength. In our modern world, so often we seek solitude space, the quiet of our own rooms. Yet here in the longhouse, togetherness is the balm for the endless night. Body heat shared freely, stories traded like treasures, a shared sense that the fire at the heart of the home is the fire at the heart of the people. The longhouse itself is part of this strength, built of timber hewn from ancient forests, insulated with turf and moss, designed not for grandeur, but for endurance. The walls are thick, the roof slopes steep to shed the heavy snow. The small windows, if there are any at all, are shuttered tight against the cold. Light comes from the fire from oil lamps, fueled by animal fat, from the soft golden glow of candles, precious and used sparingly. No bright bulbs, no harsh glare, just warm living light that soothes the eyes and the spirit. Even the furnishings reflect this harmony with the dark season. Carved chests hold clothing and tools. Simple tables and stools served by day are tucked away by night. The floor is strewn with rushes or straw replaced, often keeping the space clean and insulated. Everything has its place, its purpose, its quiet contribution to the shared life of the house. And what of the children? The youngest learn early to listen to the stories, to the wisdom of elders, to the rhythm of life in the longhouse. They learn that survival is not in strength alone, but in the bonds between people. A child who wakes in the night is not alone. A parent's hand is near a grandparent's voice, is ready with a soft word, a calming tale. The night outside may be endless, but inside there is always the comfort of the hearth, the circle of the clan. Perhaps you wonder, could we find such comfort today in our well-lit, well-heated homes? What might it be like to trade our solitary beds for shared warmth, our isolated evenings for the soft hum of voices around a fire? What might we gain in our restless, sleepless nights from remembering the lessons of the longhouse? For the Vikings, the longhouse was more than shelter. It was a living heart that beat in time with the endless night that offered not just protection from the cold, but a reminder that together even the longest winter can be endured. As you settle into your own rest tonight, let your mind linger on that warm, flickering space. Imagine the hush, the nearness of kindred souls, the quiet strength of a community at peace beneath the northern sky. And when you are ready, we will continue our journey to discover the secrets of Viking sleep and the natural rhythm that made their nights not just bearable, but blessed with deep restorative rest. The fire burns low now. Outside, the night wraps the longhouse in its deep black cloak. The northern lights may still flicker faintly overhead, but within these sturdy walls, the world has grown quiet. You can almost feel it, the slow, steady breathing of those gathered here, the hush that settles as sleep takes hold. But this is not the sleep we know today, not the single stretch of hours we chase in our modern lives, so often elusive, beneath the glow of screens and the hum of artificial light. No, the Vikings knew a different kind of rest, a sleep shaped by nature, by darkness, by the rhythm of their world. They slept in two parts, a first sleep, deep and heavy, and then a waking period, quiet and unhurried, before the second sleep carried them gently to the edge of dawn. Imagine it after hours of warmth and closeness by the fire, the household drifts into slumber. The first sleep comes easily, the darkness outside so complete, so pure, that it invites the body to surrender fully. No glowing clocks on the wall, no street lights bleeding through curtains, no interruptions save the natural sounds of the night, the sigh of the wind, the creak of timbers, the soft shifting of furs as someone stirs. This first sleep is deep restorative. The kind of sleep modern scientists tell us we crave, the slow wave sleep that heals, that strengthens, that renews. And when it ends as naturally as it began, there is no alarm to jar the senses, no abrupt return to wakefulness. Instead, the sleepers rise gradually as if called by the night itself to share in its quiet secrets. What did they do in these midnight hours between first and second sleep? They tended the fire, adding a log, stirring the embers to life. They checked on animals, ensuring that all was safe and well. They spoke in low voices, sharing thoughts that came only in the hush of the night. Perhaps they prayed, or reflected, or planned for the coming day. Some worked at small tasks, mending a net, sharpening a blade, stitching a tear in a tunic. Others simply sat watching the play of light and shadow on the walls, listening to the crackle of the hearth and the soft breathing of those still at rest. And then, when the body and mind were ready, they returned to sleep. A second sleep lighter, perhaps, filled with dreams shaped by the peace of the midnight hours. A sleep that carried them gently toward the faint promise of dawn, toward the soft gray light that would signal another day in the long dark of winter. Today we fight against our natural rhythms. We chase the illusion of 8 perfect hours of unbroken sleep, and when we cannot find it, we worry, we fret, we label ourselves as restless, as insomniac, as failing at this most human of needs. But the Vikings knew better. They embraced the ebb and flow of the night. They let the darkness guide them, let their bodies follow the ancient pattern of rest, wakefulness, and rest again. Consider this: modern sleep science has begun to rediscover what the Vikings knew all along. That segmented sleep may be not a disorder, but a return to a more natural way of resting. That the waking period between sleeps can be a time of calm, of reflection, of gentle purpose. That in listening to our bodies and aligning ourselves with the rhythms of night and day, we might find the deep rest we seek. In the Longhouse, this pattern was not just personal, it was shared. The household rose and rested together. The fire was everyone's responsibility. The peace of the night was a collective trust. Even in wakefulness, they were not alone. A glance across the hearth, a whispered word, a shared smile in the flickering light. These small connections wove the community closer, made the long night a little warmer. Perhaps you can picture it: a mother smoothing a blanket over a child who has shifted in sleep, a father adding wood to the fire, its glow lighting his thoughtful face, a grandmother murmuring an old tale to ease a restless mind. No rush, no impatience. The night is long, and there is time enough for all things. And when second sleep came, it came gently. No counting of hours, no anxiety about what the clock would say. Just a return to the furs, to the shared warmth, to the comforting nearness of family. A return to dreams, to rest, to the slow, steady breathing that would carry them through to morning. Can you feel it, the peace of that rhythm? The way the night offers both rest and wakefulness, each in its turn, each with its gifts. In our modern lives, we might do well to remember this ancient pattern, to let go of rigid expectations, to welcome the night as our ancestors did, not as a problem to be solved, but as a friend offering its own kind of wisdom. As you breathe slowly now, as you feel your own body relax into stillness, think of those Viking households asleep beneath the weight of winter's dark. Think of their first sleep, their waking hours of quiet purpose, their second sleep soft and dream-filled. And know that this too is within us still, a rhythm older than memory, waiting to be remembered. When you are ready, we will journey further into the midnight hours to explore what filled those waking moments, the dreams, the prayers, the quiet magic of the long dark. But for now, let the image linger: a longhouse, warm, with shared breath and flickering firelight, a place where sleep and wakefulness flow together, like the tide beneath the ice. The fire in the longhouse burns low, its embers casting a soft reddish glow that flickers gently on the timbers and furs. Outside, the night remains absolute, thick, silent, endless. But within these walls, the long dark is not empty. It is filled with breath, with thought, with the quiet stirrings of minds that for these precious hours between sleeps are free to wander. In this sacred hush, time feels different. There is no need to rush, no tasks that demand loud tools or hurried steps. The world outside slumbers beneath its heavy quilt of snow and ice, and so too does most of the household. But some remain wakeful, their bodies refreshed from the first deep sleep, their minds alert in this gentle pause. A woman rises from her bedding, pulling a woolen shawl around her shoulders, and tends the fire with practiced hands. The flames respond with a soft crackle, a warm blush of light that soothes as much as it warms. She settles onto a low stool, her fingers finding a small piece of weaving left unfinished the day before. Each movement is slow, unhurried, in harmony with the night. Elsewhere, a man sharpens a blade, the soft rasp of stone on metal, blending with the sigh of the wind against the longhouse walls. A child stirs beneath his furs, soothed by the familiar sounds of home, by the knowledge that others wake and watch and keep the night's quiet vigil. These are the hours of reflection, the hours when the mind, unburdened by the day's labor, drifts where it will. In the gentle flicker of the firelight, faces seem softer, lined with thought rather than worry. Eyes gaze into the flames, seeing not just the fire, but memories, hopes, perhaps even glimpses of the future. The Vikings did not fear these hours. They embraced them. This time between sleeps was a gift, a chance to sit with one's thoughts, to share a quiet word with a loved one, to mend what was broken both in the world and in the soul. It was a time when the boundary between waking and dreaming felt thin, when the mind could roam freely through the landscapes of memory and imagination. Consider the rituals that filled these moments. A father might trace a small carved amulet with his thumb, whispering a prayer to Thor for strength, to Freya for protection. A mother might place a protective charm near her child's head, believing that its simple presence would guard against troubled dreams. The night was long and the dark deep, but they were not powerless within it. Their small acts of care, their quiet rituals turned the night from a thing of fear into a companion. And then there were the stories. Oh, the stories. The midnight hours were the perfect time for tales, the old sagas, the whispered legends of gods and heroes of ancestors who had braved the seas and the snows. Imagine it, the hush of the longhouse, the glow of the fire painting shifting shapes on the walls, and the soft cadence of a voice weaving images in the air. These stories were not just entertainment, they were comfort, they were guidance. They were the threads that tied the generations together, reminding each listener that they belonged to something greater, something enduring. Sometimes in this stillness, dreams and wakefulness mingled. A man sitting by the fire might close his eyes and see again the face of a lost friend, hear again the sound of waves against the hull of a ship long sunk beneath the sea. A woman, her hands busy with needle and thread, might feel as if her grandmother's voice guided her stitches, the wisdom of the past alive in her fingertips. The night in these hours was not empty. It was full of unseen presences, of memories of the quiet strength that comes from knowing one's place in the great unbroken chain of time. Perhaps you wonder, what might it be like to welcome such a pause into your own nights? To set aside the glow of devices, the rush of tasks, the need for constant stimulation, to sit quietly as the Vikings did and let your mind drift where it will. What might you hear in that silence? What might you remember or discover? The Vikings understood that the night need not be filled with fear or with hurry. They met the darkness on its own terms, finding in it not a void, but a space for thought, for healing, for gentle purpose. Their world was shaped by the rhythm of the endless night, and they shaped it in return with small acts of care, with words shared in whispers, with the simple, enduring power of presence. And when the time was right, when the body called for rest once more, they would return to their furs, to the shared warmth of the sleeping platform, and let the second sleep carry them into dawn. The night would continue its slow turning, but within the longhouse, peace would reign. As you rest tonight, let this image linger, a longhouse quiet in the endless dark, its heart glowing with firelight, its people held together by the gentle ties of shared wakefulness and shared sleep. Let the memory of their midnight hours remind you that there is strength in stillness, that even in the deepest dark, we are never truly alone. When you are ready, we will continue and explore how the food of the long winter nourished not just the body, but the spirit, and how even the simplest meal could be a feast of hope beneath the endless night. The long dark of winter demanded more than courage and warm furs. It demanded sustenance, food that could nourish the body through the endless cold, that could lift the spirit when the sun's warmth was only a memory. And so within the sturdy walls of the longhouse, as the night pressed close, the Vikings gathered around their simple meals, not just to eat, but to share in the quiet resilience that these moments brought. Picture the scene: the fires glow soft on wooden bowls and rough-hewn tables. The aroma of barley porridge mingles with the faint tang of smoked fish and the earthy scent of stored root vegetables. There is no feast of luxury here, no endless variety, but there is abundance of another kind. The abundance of care, of tradition, of the knowledge that each bite is part of a chain of survival stretching back through generations. Barley bread, dark and dense, its crust cracked from the heat of the hearthstone. Dried fish caught and prepared during the bright summer months, now rehydrated and simmered gently in stews that warm the hands and the soul. Simple dairy curds, a thin yogurt-like drink called sky, or perhaps a slice of hard cheese aged through the autumn's cooler days. These are not the foods of kings, but of people who understood the art of endurance. And oh, the power of such simplicity. The barley-rich and complex carbohydrates provided slow, steady energy through the long night. The fish with its hidden stores of vitamin D and omega-3s strengthened bodies starved of sunlight. The fermented dairy kind of the belly offered both nourishment and comfort. In these humble foods lay the secret of survival. They were not meant to delight the palate, they were meant to sustain, to fortify, to remind those who ate them that spring would come if only they endured. But the Vikings did more than endure. Even in the deep of winter, they found cause for celebration. The Feast of Yule, held at the turning of the year, was no mere indulgence. It was a defiant blaze of light and warmth against the longest night. Imagine it, the longhouse filled with song, with laughter, with the crackle of great logs burning high in the hearth. A pig fattened through the autumn, roasted slowly, its rich scent filling the hall. Horns of ale passed from hand to hand, the bitter drink warming hearts as much as bellies. And yet even these feasts were measured. The Vikings understood that winter was long, that what was eaten today could not be replaced until the earth thawed and the seas opened once more. They balanced celebration with caution, joy with wisdom. Each shared meal was a lesson in both gratitude and restraint. Think of your own winters, the holidays, the gatherings, the meals shared with loved ones. How different are they truly from the quiet triumph of a Viking winter feast? We may have more variety, more abundance, more ease. But do we savor each bite as they did? Do we feel the same deep connection between food and survival, between the meal and the meaning it carries? In the quiet moments between feasts, the diet returned to its plain, sustaining roots. Barley porridge thickened with bits of dried fruit or slivers of nut. Thin stews of cabbage or kale seasoned not with exotic spices, but with salt and care. Preserved meats carefully rationed, their smoky flavor a reminder of the labors of warmer days. And always the ever-present bread, dark and heavy, sliced with a steady hand, shared with a mindful heart. There was strength in this simplicity. Modern science now tells us what the Vikings knew in their bones, that the foods they ate by necessity supported not just the body, but the mind. Omega-3s for the brain, slow-release carbohydrates to steady the blood, fermented foods to nourish the gut, whereas we have only recently learned much of our resilience and mood begins. And always there was the sharing. No one ate alone in the longhouse. Food was passed from hand to hand, from elder to child, from guest to host. The meal was not just nourishment, it was community made visible, made tangible. In the act of breaking bread together, of ladling stew into a neighbor's bowl, they affirmed what mattered most, that survival was a task for all, and that the long night could only be faced as one. Perhaps you can see them now, seated around the hearth, the mother cutting slices of bread with care, the father offering the last of the stew to his aging father before taking any for himself, the children wide-eyed as an elder tells a story of how the first Yule fire was lit, of how light was stolen back from the darkness by the cunning of the gods. The food warms their bodies, yes, but it is the ritual of the meal, the togetherness, that warms their hearts. And so the Vikings met the endless night with full bellies and fuller hearts. Their food was not rich by our standards. It was not varied, nor was it always plentiful. But it was enough. Enough to keep flesh on the bone, enough to keep spirit in the soul, enough to see them through until the sun returned. As you rest tonight, think of their tables rough-hewn and worn smooth by countless meals. Think of their hands scarred from labor, but gentle in the serving of food. Think of their voices raised in song and laughter as the fire crackled and the darkness pressed close outside. And when you are ready, we will turn to the sea, the sleeping sea that held their ships in winter's grip, and the quiet labors that filled the months when raiding gave way to waiting, when even the fiercest warrior laid down his axe and turned his hands to gentler work beneath the endless night. Outside the longhouse, the sea lies still beneath its frozen skin, silent as the stars above. The great ships, the long, sleek, dragon-prowed vessels that once cut through storm and waved with fearless grace, now rest upon the shore, their hulls cradled by snowdrifts and ice. The sea, like the warriors who sailed it, slumbers beneath winter's heavy hand. And with it, the age of raiding, of voyaging, of chasing the horizon is for these months set aside. This is a time of waiting, a time when the axe is hung by the door, the shield stored away, the oars stacked neatly beneath tarpaulins, protected from the gnawing cold. Even the boldest of Vikings must yield to the will of winter. The sea gives no quarter now. Its waves are hidden beneath ice, its winds cut too sharply, its storms too fierce to tempt even the most daring heart. But if the sea sleeps, the Viking spirit does not. Inside, by the warmth of the hearth, hands remain busy. Axes are sharpened with care, not for battle tomorrow, but for the spring that will come. Shields are repaired, their wooden faces smoothed, their iron rims reset. The fine lines of dragon heads carved for new ships begin to take shape beneath skilled hands, the scent of fresh cut wood mingling with smoke and pine. Fathers pass on their knowledge to sons and daughters alike, how to read the stars even when the sky is half hidden by snow, how to judge the strength of ice, how to mend a sail so that it might catch the first fair wind of spring. The dark months are not wasted. They are the forge in which future voyages are made strong. Picture a man, his broad hands steady, despite the cold shaping the rib of a new ship by firelight. Each shaving of wood falls softly to the floor, joining a pile that speaks of patient labor. His child watches eyes wide, learning not just the skill of the task, but the deeper lesson beneath it, that strength comes not only from the fight, but from the quiet work that prepares one for it. Elsewhere, a woman spins wool by the hearth, the thread fine and strong between her fingers. She hums an old tune, a song of the sea, and the men who sail it of the waiting and the return. The thread she winds will warm a sailor's back, will bind a shield, will stitch together the fabric of life itself. And always, always, there are the stories. This is the season of tales of voyages past, of distant lands glimpsed through the spray of salt, and the shimmer of heat of battles fought, of treasures won and lost, of gods who sail the sky as men sail the sea. The children listen, their imaginations sailing far beyond the snowbound world outside, across oceans that for now exist only in memory and dream. Do you feel it, the quiet power of these months? The way the fierce energy of the Viking spirit turns inward, becomes focused, patient waiting. In our modern world, we often chafe at waiting, at stillness. We fill every moment with noise, with motion, with distraction. But the Vikings knew that winter's pause was not an enemy. It was a gift, a time to mend not just ships and tools, but the self, a time to gather strength to sharpen not only the axe, but the mind. And so as the sea sleeps, so too do the longings for battle and voyage find rest. But beneath that rest there is preparation. Each plank shaped, each shield rim, set, each tale told by firelight is a promise to the future, that when the ice melts and the sea calls once more, they will be ready. Imagine it now, the longhouse quiet, save for the soft sounds of labor, the scrape of blade on wood, the hiss of steam as snow melts beside the hearth, the low murmur of voices sharing plans for ships yet to sail. Outside, the stars wheel slowly overhead, and the sea hidden beneath its armor of ice dreams of spring. As you breathe slowly, let your thoughts linger on this season of waiting, of quiet purpose. Let it remind you that even in times of stillness, there is strength, that sometimes the greatest journeys begin not with the raising of sails, but with the patient work done in the heart of the long night. When you are ready, we will look together toward the horizon, to the moment when at last the sun returns, and with it the promise of new beginnings, the joy of light after the long dark. And so at last, after what has felt like an eternity of night, the moment comes. It begins not with a blaze of light, not with the sudden warmth of spring's breath, but with the faintest, most delicate change. A softening of the horizon, a thin golden thread woven through the endless dark. A promise. Picture it, the village stirs before dawn, as it has done for countless nights. The fire is coaxed to life, hands wrap once more around wooden bowls of porridge, voices murmur softly so as not to wake those still resting. But outside, the world is different. The sky, oh, the sky holds a secret. Beyond the hills where for so long only blackness reigned, there is now a hint of color, a blush of rose of gold so faint that one might think it imagined a dream born of longing. But it is real. The word spreads quietly at first. A child points eyes wide. An elder nods as if to say, yes, I remember this, and it was always worth the wait. The people gather at the threshold of their longhouses, blinking against the gentle glow that touches the snow, that paints the ice in hues of fire. The cold still bites, the sea remains frozen, but none of that matters. The sun is returning. The long night is ending. And with it comes celebration, not of wealth or conquest, but of endurance, of having faced the darkness and remained steadfast. The people climb to the hilltops, to the sacred places where their ancestors once stood, and they light great fires. Flames leap into the pale dawn, defiant, joyful, a signal to the heavens that the darkness has been met, has been mastered, and now gives way to light. Songs rise on the crisp air, old songs sung in voices roughened by winter in languages as ancient as the stones beneath their feet. Hands join together, bread is broken, meat is shared, and laughter, true, full-throated laughter, rings out across the snow. This is not merely the return of the sun, it is the return of hope, of warmth, of the world's gentle turning toward renewal. Can you see it? The faces lifted to the light, tears tracing paths through the grime and salt left by so many nights of cold. The children dancing in the snow, their cheeks flushed with more than frost. The warriors who for months laid down their weapons, now raising horns of drink, not in conquest but in thanksgiving. The mothers and fathers, the elders and infants, all bound together in this moment of shared triumph, not over an enemy, but over the night itself. And as the sun rises higher, if only a little, if only for a short while, it bathes the village in a gentle radiance. The snow glitters like a field of stars. The sea, still locked in ice, seems to glow from within. Even the longhouses, dark and smoke-stained, appear golden in the new light. It is a beauty that no palace could rival, no treasure could match. It is the beauty of life, enduring, of hearts, unbroken by the longest dark. In our modern lives, we do not often stop to mark the turning of the seasons in this way. Our days and nights are blurred by electric light, by clocks that pay no heed to the sun's slow dance across the sky. But imagine just for a moment what it might feel like to stand at the edge of such a dawn. To know in your bones the weight of winter's night, and to feel that weight lift, replaced by the warmth of the returning sun. What lesson lies in this for us? Perhaps it is this, that the dark seasons of our lives, however long they seem, do end. That no night lasts forever, that there is a strength within us, quiet and patient, that can carry us through until the light returns. The Vikings knew this truth. They lived it year upon year, night upon endless night, trusting always in the turning of the world. And so as you rest now, as you breathe slowly, and let the hush of this story settle around you, think of that first dawn after the long dark. Think of the faces lifted to the sky, of the fires burning bright, of the songs that filled the cold air with warmth. Let it remind you that light always comes again, that hope endures, that within you, too, is the strength of those who once stood beneath a pale northern sun and knew they had triumphed over the night. When you are ready, we will close this journey, gently returning once more to the frozen fjord, to the sea, now touched by light, and reflect on what these ancient winters can still teach us today. And so we return gently, quietly, to where our journey began. To the edge of that frozen fjord where the ice still groans beneath your feet, but where now the first tender rays of the sun glint upon its surface. The sea, so long hidden beneath winter's armor, stirs as if awakening from a deep and dreamless sleep. The air is still cold, sharp enough to redden your cheeks, but there is a softness to it, now a promise carried on the breeze. The dark has passed, the light has returned. You stand there in your mind's eye, gazing across the snowy expanse, the longhouses at your back, their chimneys sending up slender threads of smoke into the pale morning. The ships resting silent on the shore seem almost to breathe again beneath their cloaks of frost. And the people, these strong, patient souls, move slowly, reverently into the dawn, as if remembering what it means to see the world painted in gold once more. In that stillness, can you feel it? The deep, quiet strength that comes not from battle nor from wealth, but from enduring. From facing the longest night with courage, with care, with hope that flickers but never dies. The Vikings knew that strength. They lived it each winter, shaping their days and their hearts to match the rhythm of the world around them. And in doing so, they left us a gift, the reminder that we too can endure, that we too can find light beyond our darkest nights. Perhaps as you rest tonight, you might think of their longhouses, the warm hush within the shared breath of a family, the fire that never truly went out. You might think of the sea sleeping beneath its frozen skin, waiting for spring. You might think of the first dawn, that soft and sacred return of the sun, and let it remind you that even in your own seasons of darkness, light is never truly gone. It only waits just beyond the horizon. And if this journey through the endless night has brought you even a moment's peace, even a breath of comfort, I invite you to stay with us. There are more stories waiting beyond the mists of time, more quiet wonders to explore together, more ancient wisdom to gently guide us through our modern storms. So as you drift towards sleep, let the echoes of the Viking night stay with you. The crackle of the hearth, the hush of snow against timber, the soft chorus of voices raised in hope beneath the northern sky. And when you wake, may you carry with you that quiet strength, that patient courage, that promise of light returning. If this tale has brought you comfort tonight, I invite you to share your thoughts in the comments below. Like this story, share it with those who might need a little light in their own long nights, and subscribe to join us again as we journey softly through history's hidden corners. Until then, may your dreams be warm and your heart strong.